Hey guys, Old Blue Accord back again, and as always, Subaru strikes again. Well, this is a sad story. I think we know we've had a little trouble with the car, the vibration and stuff, and I did one or two videos with it. We took it to the dealership, and they told me that the tires were out of balance and they were cheap and this and that and the other thing, and they did the rear brakes. And which the rear brakes were not in great shape, but that wasn't really what the problem was. I told them the vibration was in the front. And I picked it back up. This was probably right before Christmas, and I didn't drive it maybe 3 blocks, and it was still exactly the same. Same noises, same vibration, same everything. And I really should have just turned it right around and brought it back to them. But, like I said, we've had some trouble with this dealership. They really don't do anything that they're supposed to do. And they never do anything correctly. Not really. So... you know, it's a tough thing. I mean, you got to... I sent it there. I probably should have fixed it myself. I kind of blame myself for some of this, but what I think this video really is to get about is, one, we've taken it back again, and this time they did fix. They put a CV shaft in the driver's side like they're supposed to, and then they did also, in between all that, between December and whatever it is now, we had trouble. I had a whirring noise, a very loud whirring noise in the back, which I knew was the rear wheel bearings, which, like I said, they just done the brakes like 2 months ago, and I had told them if it needed brakes, it probably needs bearings, and they said no, the bearings are fine. And sometimes bearings, it's kind of hard to tell, but with all the trouble we've been having with this car, they probably should have changed it, especially while they had all the brakes off and apart, so they kind of double dipped me on that. The story just gets worse and worse. So here's my main issue with them, besides all that other tomfoolery. And you've heard about the transmission and how they tried to get out of the 100,000 mile warranty and told me I needed a new transmission, but then when I brought the paperwork back to them saying that it was under warranty, then they're like, well, we'll just go ahead and change the valve body. So it went from I needed a new transmission to they could fix it for under $1,000 because of course it's on their dime. And that kind of started the whole downhill. And some of these service riders are the same guys, so they kind of see me coming and they kind of remember, oh, we tried to pull one on them a couple times already. But anyway, I'm going to bring this up to the camera so y'all can see it. And I'm going to hide the name of the Subaru dealership, but there's only one Subaru dealership in Knoxville, Tennessee, and if you want to look it up, you'll figure it out. But for one, they charge you a $165 diagnostic fee, which I think is baloney because obviously you're taking a car to them that we've already taken to them twice for not fixing. And then we talked about, you know, the clicking from the left front. So the CV shaft started to really click. So then I was like, okay, it's definitely the driver's side, you know, the driver's side CV shaft is clicking, so that's telling me it's bad. And that was a good thing. That told you that's probably where most of the front end of vibration from. Now here's my issue, and they basically say customer states vehicle has vibration when braking, but they called my wife and they tried to scare her into saying that the front brake pads were bad, and they also claimed that it was 8 millimeters on the front brake pads. Now that's my issue with this whole thing, because when I did the video before and I talked about changing out the brake caliper bracket, and that, you know, somebody had taken the boots off and then everything had seized, I'd also done brake pads, and the parts are still laying here on the floor from when I did the initial fix several months ago. So I knew the pads were good. You know, something could happen. Maybe the brakes locked up and burned the pads up in a few months. I don't know. But the 8 millimeter is kind of an interesting thing because this is an 8 millimeter wrench, just to kind of use as a reference. And here's the original brake padding. You know this is the Subaru because it's dual piston and junky. And as you can tell, let's see if I can get this to work. So that would be 8 millimeters. So obviously this pad could be worn, but I mean, you look at this brake pad, you could still go a long ways on this pad. I mean, obviously. And this is the one I took off. This is not the brand new one. So they're claiming that you need 8 millimeters. I got a little issue with that. So anyway, here's the original pads. And what we're going to do is I'm going to grab the camera. And hopefully this will come out pretty good, because I'm just wanting to prove it to myself. And maybe, now I know you guys understand all this, but I'll just go around and show you quick. Here's the parts that I took off the car. And again, here's the brake pad. right? Dual piston, old. And it's a little thinner on that side. And then there's the bearings that I changed in the front. Now, I think they were a little mad that I changed the bearings myself, but I don't know. Now, we'll go over to the other side of the car, and you'll obviously see that I'm kind of just lined all the parts up real quick. But here's the parts just exactly like I left them, because I haven't been cleaning. Here's the bad caliper with the bad pin. Right there, no boot on it, because some idiot took the boot off. And then again, here's the pads. Right? There's the pads. So, with, a decent amount of meat on them, especially for, this one was a little thin, but that was with the caliper locking up and not releasing correctly. So, it goes to show you that you can't trust anybody. They tried to scare my wife, and she had me come with you, because she's like, well, they're trying to scare me into getting brakes. And, they did do what they were supposed to do, I hope. We're going to check, because now you don't know. But, check out these prices too. But he did supposedly do the rear hubs, and he supposedly did the left front axle. Alright, so I pulled the wheel off. And you can tell that I just worked on the car, because there's anti-seize all over everything, right? I like to use the anti-seize and the rim. And then he did do the boot and did do an axle, which I understand you're supposed to use a Subaru. You are supposed to use a Subaru CV shaft, and I can dig that. But you can obviously see into the window. I'm not going to take these calipers off just because it's just not worth the hassle to me. But you can see. Let's see if I can get it good. It's going to be tough. Oh, it's fighting me. I can see the pad in there, and you can see how thick it is. But yeah, that's just terrible. It really is. It's not appropriate to do something like, yeah, there's the pad. So the rusty part is the rotor. That's the pad. Look how much meat you got on there. I mean, they're brand new. They're just playing a game, They're trying to scare her and putting brake pads on. And we're talking $650 to slap brake pads on there. And then they told us that the rotors are bad, which I kind of remember the rotors not looking that good. But for what we were doing and trying to not throw a whole bunch of parts at it, I really felt like it was the trans. And it's still got not a great feel to it. There's some vibration. And they kept coming up with these crazy excuses. Oh, well, it's there's a lot of metal in the car, so you're going to hear a lot of noises. It's an older car, so it's going to be a little bit. I'm like, yeah, but you're not supposed to have the vibration knock your teeth out. And this rear brake job was a joke to start with. They turn those rotors, they claim, but they are atrocious. And then they told us they can't turn the front, said they don't turn rotors. So I mean, it's just a really terrible thing. And then they had to take all that back apart to do the they had to take it all back apart to do the bearings 3 months later. It just, and the whole job cost us $2,800. Now, here's the thing that I'm going to kind of contradict myself from. I'm kind of glad it's done, because I'm sick of this car, obviously. I'm sick of this car, I'm sick of Subaru, and I'm sick of the dealership nonsense. And I'm glad it's done. Now, the car, it drives great. I've drove it all week for the wife just to make sure everything's alright, because she's a little unsure about it. Maybe a slight vibration in the brakes, but I mean, it's really nothing. The trans still acts up, it slips and dips and does all that stuff, but I think we're out of the wheel, we're out of the wheelhouse at least, or out of the wheelhouse at least, as far as the car, no vibration, it feels safe, now she can drive it. I think they're just out of their damn minds, and I can't sue them because they didn't. I mean, if they'd done the brake job and I'd already done it, maybe I could get my money back in small claims court. I doubt it. But it's just, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, especially for a dealership. It's really pretty terrible. And there's some names on here. I probably shouldn't say anything. I don't have any issue with the guy that did the work. But the service riders are getting to be a little bit of a smart ass. He knows I'm on to him. He knows my wife's on to him, too. Probably never going to buy another Subaru again. Definitely never going to buy one from that dealership. There's another dealership that's a little farther out of town, and they're pulling work out of Knoxville because of this reason. They have terrible, terrible reviews here in Knoxville. So, it's coming to a point where, and these cars, and they're not a bad car for 20. I don't even think we paid $22,000 for this car. It is what it is, and you probably can't get one for under 30 nowadays. But it's just stuff like this, calling somebody up, telling them their brakes are dangerous when they're brand hammer damn new, is really, really, that's just a bad deal. That's just really a bad way to do business. And who knows how many other people are doing it. And instead of just fixing the actual problem, like we said, with the vibration 4 months ago, they had to drag it out. And I think this is actually the third time we brought it to them for vibration. So they've kind of dragged out, wasted my time, and I've got to take part of a day off to go over there and waste time with the dealership. So it's just an ongoing thing. It just makes it frustrating. But whole blue Accord, that's what I got, to tell you all about. There's some good stuff going on. I'll swing around over here real quick. I don't want to make this too long of a ranting video. Like I said, Subaru's great. It's going. It's running. I'm going to go ahead and do an ops check. One thing was the rear tire had 19 pounds of air in it. So if you bring your car to the dealership and they don't even bother to put air in the tires, they're not really doing their job. So check the tires. I'm just going to go around and do lug nuts, check the torque and everything. It's been a few days on the work, and hopefully I never see this car in my garage again. So back on to the positive thing. There it is. Got a nice set, 2 sets, tires, and they're going on that car. Pretty excited about that. And there's some shenanigans with that ordering the tires and everything. Well, the tires came within 24 hours, but I couldn't get a garage in town to order me a set, so I did it myself, because that's the magic of the internet. But yeah, I got some good positive stuff coming. I appreciate y'all listening to my rant, and I'm gonna put this car back together again. Like I said, check the torque of my lug nuts, because who knows what they did correctly and what they didn't. And we'll continue to drive it. 148,000 miles. Thanks again for looking and listening. Dealing with my camera, bad camera action. We really appreciate you, the like and subscribes and all that stuff. It makes me kind of, keep wanting to do all this. And you gotta stick to your guns. You gotta kind of keep these guys. You gotta keep these guys honest. I don't know what else I could do. We didn't, like I said, we didn't do the brakes. We refused. I'm gonna go ahead and straighten the wheel out, put this baby to bed. But yeah, we and I give my wife credit. She stuck to her guns too. She's like, my husband just put brake pads on that. So, that's probably the right thing. And I kept the old parts. So, laying right there in the garage, I knew I had done it. So, it just goes to show you can't win sometimes. But thanks a lot for looking. I'll end it right there. Appreciate you guys. Old Blue Accord. Remember to like and subscribe. That would help maybe out some of these jokers. Thanks a lot. Bye.